hits and crits. This video is brought to you by Asmodee.
What is up, YouTube? Welcome to the first Season 6 patch video for A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game. And we're more than excited to be able to do this today. The first things first. Thank you, cmon, for providing the patch early to us, in advance to us, so we can prepare, that we can dive deep into all changes, dive deep into each faction, dive deep into every little single piece of this. Thanks again. We will today cover the most not crucial, the most general, the general changes of this patch, which are across all the factions, which are for each and every player, which are relevant, kind of like list building or like attachment changes or ability changes that go across each faction. We will dive deeper into each particular faction, as we always did in our faction videos, which will be done with moderators, with kings, with hits and crits team members. So we really have the expertise there also. This will be done starting next week. And you can look forward to this. Before we start into like the really deep talk, let's assess that patch first. And I think especially Rusty is really excited to talk about this.
I'm super excited about the patch, and you see the agenda here. There's a lot of stuff in there, and it's a big patch, and it was announced that at the beginning of the year now, there's going to be a big patch. There's some really exciting changes with some really far-reaching implications that, as of now, we can't even assess. So we'll have to see how the meta settles there. And so for me, this is really interesting and exciting. And Daniel, you're a really experienced player. How is it for you? Is that a good direction cmon is going with this?
I think if we agree that the patch is centered around attachments and their part in list building and how they affect list building, I think we can say it's a very good direction, because I think we can all agree that attachments are like a vital part of the universe, and they have been like a song universe, and the game kind of struggled in the past to get this really going, and I think now they made a huge step in this direction, and we will see so many attachments all over the place. We might even struggle to fit them all into it.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good direction in general. We will see how it will play out and all, and the details, but yeah, good one.
What I really like about it is it really spices up the list building in general, and
Yes.
each and every one of you out there, all the community, everyone like spends so much time on War Council, on stats, obviously, to build their perfect list, to try out new stuff. So it really spices up this and keeps the whole game and its list building interesting. So especially that lore piece is interesting. So I know Rusty is a big fan of like his blood riders and stuff. We will talk about that later, but so the lore aspect is also a thing that I really like. What about you, Dennis?
I think it's really good that they have considered this, and in their announcement, they said that there's going to be some lore-specific things that they've changed about attachments, and it just makes sense that you can't have some attachments with some commanders, because just lore-wise it doesn't work, because that person is dead. So I think that's really, really cool, and not just something for the competitive scene and for the people who are looking for the meta focused on that, but also for the casual people who who just like to play fluffy lists. So I appreciate and I applaud cmon for taking that into account and doing something for these people as well with this patch.
Yeah.
And also maybe one thing, like the thing with the attachments, we saw this as an optional stuff in the past, right? It's as an option, and now they took it seriously. That's also something I think a good idea. Like, if you have an idea for the development of the game, put it out as an option, see how people react, and in case they don't jump onto it in the way that you expect it. Maybe now make it obligatory, and we now have to do it, and we will see how this plays out. But also, like, seeing from the agenda, it's not only about attachments. There's a lot more, and we will cover this right now. And they did, I think, they did a good job covering all the necessary things we expect from a big patch, which is typically located in this time of the year.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take a look at the list building and their attachments altogether. So to nail it down, there are 3 game sizes, which we typically play 40 points, but we are talking 3 additional attachment points, 4 additional attachment points for 40 points, and 50 points, they get even 5 free attachment points. So why is this important and good? So till now, as we said earlier, or like looked into it, especially me as a Night's Watch player, a lot of times when you build lists, it's really hard to fit in certain attachments you wanted to try out, you wanted to see. So like Watch Captain, Samuel Tarly, all that kind of stuff you wanted to do was kind of hard when you only or almost only deal with 7-point units. It's kind of hard to do. But this is not only something for Night's Watch. This is across the game, was difficult in parts, at least. Probably not for not for free folk, but everyone else probably. So that's why it's so important. And now it gets kind of normal for us to try to build buffy units, right? Yeah. So then, Daniel, would you think, or what do you think of that aspect of you have to do attachments now?
I mean, generally you don't have to, but now it's they are way more efficient suddenly, right? Because you have 3 points, and we will talk about some examples where you probably won't use the 3 points. There might be, some, but in general you want to use it, and all attachments throughout get way more efficient. And in the past, we had situations where just having this plain 5-point unit was the better call, and there was no room for them. So I think this is very good. And also, they are tackling, right, the efficiency of attachments in itself. For example, like 2-point attachments were like notoriously seen as bad or inefficient. And I think this helps to foster the diversity in attachment. But this has obviously big impacts on all aspects of the game, on the meta, the balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly what Daniel said. There's been a complaint, so to speak, in the community that a lot of stuff that's really cool, and I have this really cool attachment, I never use them because I just can't fit them because the 2 points just aren't worth it if you only have a 40-point army, right? Standard size, 40 points. So putting a 2-point attachment in there is already a lot of those 40 points. And if you save 2 points, that might mean you can pick a much stronger unit, or pick another cheap unit maybe, that you can free up some points. So this was kind of the general thing with list building up to now. It's like, where can I save those 2 points to get a stronger NCU or whatever, or a stronger unit. So, and now you definitely have those 4 points that you can just spend on attachments. So it will make attachments much more frequent. We will see many more attachments, and we will see different lists as well, I think. One other complaint, of course, is that the general size is only 40 points, and compared to other systems where you have maybe 200 points or 2,000 points or more, it gives you much more flexibility. And of course, 44 points is not 200, right? I mean, sure, it's not a big change. It doesn't completely revolutionize A Song of Ice and Fire's point system, but still, it's a step in that direction that a lot of people have had their qualms with in the past, and I think this is great.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Chris. I'm a free folk player, and I play some Tarks lately. and they
I
are,
played Free Folk lately.
you know, and they tend to field some solo units. And
Yeah.
can we maybe line out, because when the announcement came of this change, many people were wondering, oh, did they forget what will happen to Mag and what's going on? Can you maybe outline this and how this works?
Yeah, so actually when I received the patch in my mailbox, right, and I opened it and that first moment came, and actually when I saw the first changes and read the plus points, I was like instantly thinking about giant lists. Giant lists are in general not like meta defining, I would say right now, but like how it works is when you use Mag, which as a commander, he drops down from 9 points to 5 points. This is how it is, and this is how it will remain.
For every unused free attachment point, that is,
Exactly.
in case you have raiders and use it or something, right? You would then only get -3 points or something from Mag.
Yes,
right?
for every attachment point, additional attachment point you do not use, he gets reduced by 1. So, and I tried it, and you can basically we will definitely cover that in way more detail in the Free Folk video. But you can now do a monster list with 2 mammoths, so 8 activations, and with 3 NCUs you can do that now because you can reduce him to 1 point, and that's cool, right? I'm not saying that's meta defining. Then I'm just saying it's cool, and they thought about it. And second question would arise. What about dragons? And I think the reason why dragons are not changed in that field or in that same way is because dragons are right now in a really good spot, I would say. But this is how it is. Maybe that comes later. But for now, I'm really happy that they did not forget about the giant meta list because in the end, all the cards and the tactics cards that Mag brings are all buffing and using monsters and solos. Yep. So it's definitely a thing, and it's good that they not forgot about it. So that's a good change.
Yeah. Maybe as one clarification, so it was he costs 9 points. If you take him as a commander, he costs 5.
Exactly.
And now with the changes,
he could cost 1.
He costs 1 point.
He goes for 1 point.
If you don't use any attachments.
If you do not use any attachments, yeah.
It's quite
additional
likely with the
attachment
giant list. And you want to have a lot of giants because his cards work for giants and on monsters.
You can do three giants, 2 mammoths, and 3 NCUs now. Yeah.
So if you kill my Mag, you get 1 point, unit destroyed, right?
Yes.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. See, he's already thinking about that. Okay.
Oh, I see him going back to Free Folk next season.
He already is, man.
Yeah,
okay, so let's go to what really happens. So season 6 attachment changes, which is the most defining thing of this patch. This is how we will go through it. So basically 2-point attachments, 1-point attachments. We've seen some reworks. We've seen the limits being now in list building, and also as we discussed in the beginning, there's a lore focused perk, right? Perks that define lore or that make you build lore lists. So let's start out with the 2-point attachments. These 2-point attachments did not see any changes, but they straight up get reduced to 1 point, which is incredible because especially Jaime Lannister is considered a really good attachment, but was never seen in Lannister lists because he was 2 points. And I definitely see him now. So that's definitely a thing. So what do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, I think
about this.
As I said, the 2-point attachments were in a bad spot, or many of them were, and now some are just reduced by 1 point, which is a huge change. In addition to 4 free points, so I think we will really have to think about how we get the platforms, i.e. units, to field all these, right? I mean, Samuel Tarly, 1 point. It's like, yeah, okay. I mean, we know this from Tyrion, right? It's but the same.
It's fair.
Nearly the same, but yeah. And also Dennis, if you see the Golden Company officer, what does it do with you?
Mm-hmm.
More elephants.
More
You're going
elephants.
to see those elephants now, and I mean, with the changes
Yeah.
that came in the past, you need a Golden Company a unit to have the or you put them into a unit, it becomes a Golden Company unit, and you need to have a Golden Company officer in long range, I think, of the elephant in order for it to do what it needs to do, right? Otherwise, it can happen. You have to roll, and it might not do stuff. So people need that Golden Company officer. And now with the point reduction, we can finally see more elephants. And this is something that I think a lot of the neutral players, but also other factions will have fun, just fun with, even if it's not meta. It's really cool, and those models are great. And now we will see them more on the table, I hope. Yeah.
Also, one thing, like some of the Blood Rider attachments, they were for some reason 2 points. They are now 1 point, and this is also like good. The power levels between attachments were sometimes feeling a little bit off, and they took the chance to correct this, and yeah, very, very good.
Yeah. But like one thing on the Blood Riders, and I really have to ask that, how do you guys feel about a full calf list with Blood Riders, no weekend anymore?
It's the first thing I built.
I know.
I saw this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we will cover this later, maybe in the list building department.
Okay.
But yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's something that needed to be done. I mean, they were never used except for as the Blood Riders unit together with Khal Drogo, but there's such cool attachments and very varied. You know, you have those very different abilities that they bring to these calf lists, and now we can finally use them. And you know, as a Tark player, this was amazing. I still want to see all of them as commander versions, though.
Yeah, true.
But yeah,
all of them exactly. Okay. But also we have to mention there were also some attachments that went to 1 point but got a nerf, so they were not like stayed the same. So Brazen Beast Captain, for example, he lost Iron Resolve, or Zhojin from the Starks, he got like is it really a nerf? He got a
both at the same time. Yeah,
both at the same time is a little bit in between, but they changed them and put him to 1 point. But it, like for Georgian especially, I feel he now has the chance of being used, because before that, like I'd never in my life build a list with Georgian before, and I see it now, or it could happen now. Yeah.
For the audience, maybe before it was like 2 points and it was rerolls. And I think charge rerolls or something, and now it's only twice in the game you can reroll either attack or defense dice, which is
defense dice.
Defense dice, which is pretty strong for 1 point. It's a good change.
Okay, so that's it with the 2 attachments. So we see way more attachments on 1 point now. But now let's go to changes, or like straight up buffs for units. So now we chose these 3 examples just to nail it down, and then I will give back to Dennis on this one. So Qyburn basically gets a buff because he only gets vulnerable and does not gain this -1 defense as before. That was the reason why he was always in Pyromancers, because they don't care, they are at 6 anyways. But now he only gets the vulnerable. The Pikeman Captain, totally new ability, Leadership Follower, he gains. This unit gains +1 to morale test rolls. Yeah, that's amazing. Especially when we think Renly, Embolden, Renly, list, heal, right? So he gains +1 to morale test as long as he's in long range of his commander. And Chosen of Styre, for example, he gains Furious Charge. Just your go-to attachment. Yeah. So these are
was already great.
It was already great, and now he's greater. So these are straight up buffs for 1 point units, attachments. So Dennis, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I think it shows that they're really balancing this stuff out. And I mean, if you give us 4 points for the attachment, if you reduce 2 points attachment now to make them be used more, then of course you have to look at other stuff as well, and try to make it even out a bit, and they're doing this. If this is the perfect balance for these attachments, I cannot say. We already talked about the pikeman captain that seems quite strong, and also chosen of steer. So we'll see what happens. But at least they're trying to balance this out, which is probably difficult with only having this difference between 1 and 2 point attachments, really.
Yeah.
But I applaud the changes, and that they have really really looked at a lot of them.
I think especially what I know that will be in the Lannister video, but I can't get over myself. What I really see incentivized with Qyburn now that he's better and he's still 1 point. We also have the giant, the mountain. What's his name? The 3-point attachment that now went to 2. The mountain? No, it's not the mountain, but everyone knows what I mean. So he brings the 2 auto wounds and the resilience now for 2 points, and you have these additional 4 points. So all of this is really incentivized by this, and I would love to see this on the table. Yeah.
2 points on this.
Yeah.
They obviously, as you said, Dennis, had to increase the power level of the 1-point attachments if they just bring down 2-point attachments to 1 point. But this in general means, hell, attachments are just so much more attractive in general, right?
Yeah.
Like just the card itself, 1 point got better, and now it's basically for free in many circumstances. So big, huge buff. And not to overlook this, they, even though it's only this one instance, they introduced new general abilities here with leadership follower, which is pretty nice, because in the past there were some complaints that maybe the game feels a little bit too generic if you only have all this kind of limited list of all the same abilities. And so yes, slightly introducing new, cool, stylish, fitting abilities is a really cool sign that they do this. Yeah,
Definitely. So let's take a look at. Oh, sorry.
It's the Mountain Behemoth is the one.
The Mountain Behemoth, yeah, exactly. So you get incentivized to do this now, right? So these are we talked about Jojen already. So these are also some reworks, some total reworks we saw. We covered Jojen already, but let's take a look at Gregor, the Mountain Behemoth. The Mounted Behemoth is cannot be weakened. He gained ferocious assault and intimidating presence. So totally different than before, because before he did the 2 auto wounds.
Yes.
He did
and uncontrolled rage. Yeah.
Uncontrolled rage, which was, I would say, was okay in Knights of Castle Rock or the Brigands. But this attachment now for 3 points, or the old one for 3 points, was way too expensive for what it brought. And this one I can really see in Brigands or Knights of Castle Rock, and especially because you have the 4 points. I don't know if this really is really used by the Lannisters in the end, but now I feel I can at least try it, right, and see what it brings.
For sure, and I mean, like in Brigands, cannot be weakened is obviously very good, because weakened tokens also against knights is always a very viable way to shut the offensive power down. You have a panic token on your Brigands and intimidating presence. It's very nice, and you still think about it. You still get it for free and 1 more point for something else. And you because you have your commander attachment anyway, right? You have to have these units to put all these great attachments in. Yeah. So I think you might consider this. I can see this for sure.
Yeah. All right. So that's on the reworks. We also in this patch gain something which is limited. So more limited units. We know this from the past, but it was not like widely used or widely in any faction. We just we were just able to think about when we first saw it about the attachments for the war machines, for example. So there were limitations in the game, but now they're widely spread across the patch. So these are 2 examples. They're down profit, loses, go down fighting. but can only be used 2 times in a Greyjoy.
It goes to 1 point.
And it goes to 1 point and but can only be used twice. Same goes for the Champion of the Faith. That comes free when you take the High Sparrow, but we will cover lore later. But these limitations are wider used now, which is good because they see you cannot spam them across your faction. But like to cover one other point on this, on limitation, us three were thinking that one thing that we really want for the future is to talk about restrictions and limitations in the future. So this is something cmon will probably bring in the future, right? That they really play with how many attachments can you use, how many attachments can you put in one unit. This is something
I think
to consider.
these are two different things, right? The one thing is how often can you bring one attachment in general? Like, and I'm not completely sure whether limitations are needed here. I can see that they might be beneficial because obviously more diversity and so on, and you prevent spam. But I think it wouldn't be a big problem. It's just my first impression.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a huge problem.
Probably you could also say then like all generic attachments, I mean, get some sort of limitation. And the other thing is, now that we have all these cool attachments and so many points, like maybe we want to lift the restrictions a little bit more so that we can more often get not only 1 but 2 attachments in one unit.
Yeah.
We are completely aware that this is dangerous territory in terms of balancing for sure. But this would be so cool because you could, have all these combinations of characters in your units and so on. So I think it would really be some space to discover.
Yeah, when thinking about like restrictions and limitations, my first thinking was maybe each faction can gain a generic attachment which brings one certain ability. So for Starks, for example, we could give it go down fighting for 1 point, and it could be like put without any restriction next to another attachment in your Stark units, right? This could be something, and
like Reaver Captain or something.
Yeah, and Martell's gain something else, right? So that could be cool, but so that's maybe an idea that comes to mind when we think about limitations, restrictions. This is something we could think about in the future. All right, so now let's start with the lore aspect, which we all like, which we all really agree was highly needed, highly anticipated. Everyone likes it. So these are 2 examples. The Winterfell Champion, he comes with Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell. First one is free and can also be used 2 times or up to 2 times in your Stark army. And the other example does not come with your commander, but the 2-point Mokoro attachment, he gets reduced by 1 when you use the 2-point attachment Victarion. So really something that really fuels the lore. Right, because Mokoro was saved by a Victarion and all that. Let's not dive too deep, but it fuels the lore and the stories of the game of the books. What I really like. What about you, Dennis?
Yeah, I mean, this is great. We talked about it before. People who want to play fluffy lists, they want stuff like this. Getting Mokoro cheaper in a list with Victarion just makes sense. And again, it's kind of something where you might be shoehorned or forced into certain combinations, which contradicts what Daniel said about having more flexibility. But still, from a lore standpoint, I think this is interesting to do, and definitely shakes up how you might use, in which combinations you might use these attachments, and I think that's something good and fresh for the game for now.
Yeah. And so much more thematic, right? I mean, it's just, I can just not stress enough the point that it's just cooler to have like a painted army, which makes use of that kind of storytelling also next to competitive play, next to I want to win, next to I do not want to forget my card played. That's cool, right? I really love it.
Yeah, and basically you get rewarded for playing these fluffy combinations because you get it point cheaper or get 1 attachment free.
All right. Another example, which especially by all the Baratheon players will be highly anticipated, because this combination was already seen quite often in lists, right? I mean, Davos supply aid always like in the Wardens or the Lightbringers. There were great places for Davos before. And now he brings his son for free, right? And he is obviously so strong in Kingsman. So, I mean, what can go wrong? Team Seaworth, man. I mean, this is so cool. So it comes lore-wise. It's just good, straight up good. And yeah, just great example of what they do now with this change.
Also, one thing to mention, I think we didn't mention it yet.
Mm-hmm.
People were talking when they saw the announcement, like, okay, now we get so many free points for attachments. They will change adaptive, won't they? And we don't see adaptive change. So, like, imagine.
Yeah.
And this is where I feel in the future where our thought from maybe lift limitations comes from, because you might end up in situations where which is okay. You don't have to use all your free points, but it's just, we want to optimize it and
you want to max it out.
And I think you will see a lot of lists where you can read from it that they really tried on this, and this might not even be the stronger list in comparison to something else. So I'm really interested in how this goes. But yeah, this is something to keep in mind. Your adaptive is still on.
It's still on, and also like Brotherhood Without Banners, they get one free attachment, so they have basically 5, right? So when you play 40 points, they have 5 free attachment. Or Bolton's, their first free Bastard Boy is free, and then they get the 4. So definitely goes back to restrictions, limitations. So this is something we should really take a look at. What will happen in the future with that, with this. All right. So now, guys, I know a lot of people sitting at home saying, Assault orders got a nerf. Only lowest attack die value, even for the general tactics card of the Starks. So assault orders in each and every faction, each and every commander, and the Stark faction, only lowest attack die value, otherwise stays the same. So it basically just nerfs down the attack potential of aggressive commanders. Let's go back to our our cluster video where we clustered the commanders. Aggressive commanders get nerfed down, while sustained assault on the other side gets better because it gets the sentence, if this targets your commander's unit, the defender also becomes vulnerable, which wasn't the case before. So they make these control or not control, these defensive commanders better, or the longer the game takes. Like sustained assault is something that's always good, like round 3, round 4, but especially could be even better in round 5, 6 with this. So they, in my point of view, they put down attack potential a little and put up a little bit long-term grind. Daniel, what do you think?
I think they the quote-unquote alpha strike is a little bit
less
more difficult
dangerous.
now. I mean, it's not true for every circumstance, right? Imagine Blood Riders, okay, they lose 1 die, for example, with Drogo on second rank. But if you look at let's say Greatjon in Cutthroats, suddenly it's you don't want to be on lowest rank there. So and this fits into a scheme we see later of toning down offensive potential, which then indirectly means buffing defensive strategies. So I think this will be very interesting to see and observe. And Sustained Assault now, it once was such a bad card, like really such a bad card.
Always
and now,
drop it.
If I imagine Victarion, even if there's no other cards online with Sustained Assault, it's so scary.
It's really scary.
This card is very strong now.
Yeah. It also like incentivizes, or it just makes commanders or factions or armies that you build that are relying on getting better over time, or that want to win long term, right? Do not want to do the Alpha Strike in round 2 or 3, which want to win over time, gets a little bit better. So, yeah. That's the main takeaway of these 2 cards. But we got 2 more. So there are 2 general changes to tactics cards. So we have Bloody Beheadings, which used a totally new name for the card. So or totally new card, which basically replaces Remorseless Examples. Remorseless Examples is taken out of the Bolton deck, is taken out of from the Weeper, from all these like morale or like panic commanders. And basically is a panic bomb. So, right, it makes panicked in long range. It makes enemies suffer panic in long range if ranks are cleared, or if the units are, and especially all units. So it's a big panic bomb, which I really appreciate, because Remorseless Examples used to be a card, or it was a card that a lot of times led to weird things on the battlefield and was a lot of times not really useful, or punished yourself even, right? For Boltons. I mean, when you put,
I think Remorseless Example.
Yeah, it was just on enemy. Exactly. It was just exactly. It was on enemy, but also but still it's, this card is straight better than,
for sure,
than Remorseless Examples, and especially, and we will cover that in the Bolton video, Bloody Beheadings does so much more for the Bolton faction now. So it really makes the Bolton deck now way better.
Dennis, what do you think about this card, the power level?
I think that's really good, and especially for Boltons. We haven't talked about their the general change for Boltons yet. So they got a faction ability, which we're not going to go into detail here, and which will also be in the Bolton video, of course. But now they can dish out even more panic tokens, and that's really helpful for them. And of course, this card, like so many other Bolton cards, will benefit from that. So it makes perfect sense. And Remorseless Examples just wasn't used a lot. It was a bit situational, and second effect only happens if you kill something. So it was a bit weird. As far as we know, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, as far as we know from our patch version that we got, Queen of Marines tactics deck didn't lose Remorseless Examples, though, did it? As far as we know, it's still in there.
In our document it's missing, but I'm certain that it will be the same for Queen of Marine. Yeah,
it could be, but then she gets Queen of Marine gets a new commander card then, which would be missing in our version. So by the time you watch this video, the official patch is out, and maybe it's in there, or Queen of Marine is maybe the only instance where we still have.
The same goes for Reaper, right? I mean, Reaper has Remorseless Examples too.
Exactly.
But this one is replaced. This one is in the document.
That's why we.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
And the other card, Sadistic Games. Was in the past a card that could be easily avoided, but because it basically said,
especially early in the game,
you could choose. If you are engaged, you get hits basically, and if you weren't engaged, guess what? Guess what? What I chose?
Yeah, I choose hits.
And now it's like 2 panic token or 2 weaken tokens, which is out of the blue pretty strong. Also think about the missions where you can score points from tokens and so on. So it's a decent card now.
Yeah. A lot of Bolton players will be happy about these 2 changes for
Definitely.
sure. And both of them less situational, which was something that kind of hindered the Bolton deck.
Yeah. And Ramsey neutral commander also.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Yeah. All right. So that's for general changes to tactics cards. Let's now go to abilities, general abilities that got changed. Daniel, guide us through it about this change, about less attack potential.
Yeah, and in for the last chapters, we sometimes had like all the changes, and sometimes we had just examples. But these are not all changes to abilities. We will cover some more later. But these are 2 that fit in the same scheme, which is for Might of the Throne, as well as Motivated by Coin. they got completely reworked, and they don't grant free attacks anymore or free charges. And this fits to, I think, the nerf of Assault Orders, and this falls
Same
into the same
theme, yeah.
category. Yeah. Might of the Throne now gives you +1 attack die, and you count as an automatic 6 for the charge, which is not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not a free attack. And for Motivated by Coin, it's not very interesting. It's only on melee when your opponent does not control bags now. When performing a melee attack, you can reroll, and when you activate and your opponent does not control bags, you may restore 1 wound. So it's a little bit offensive, a little bit of healing, but again, no free attack anymore. And this has also like wide, very fundamental, I guess, implications on how the game will be played.
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to quickly point out one other thing that I find is a general thing that also applied for last patch. A lot of the abilities that need you to control or needed you to control a zone have now been changed, or the wording has been changed to while your opponent does not control. So they are less or they're more flexible. So beginning of a round, for example, when nobody's on the no NCU is on the tactic board, you can already reap these abilities, and before it would have been like when you control. So I think that's one other general strategy probably that the devs have implemented now, and I think it's not bad because it's just more flexible.
It's not like I have to unlock an effect, but I could prevent my opponent to have one, which feels very suiting for Song.
gives also Peter NCU more benefit in the future. And but what I really like about this particular example, what you just said about like reducing attacks or charges, I think over time the Might of Throne, it used to be that minigun thing, just shooting all the time, and Brawn. I mean, Brawn is an attachment which is obviously good, right? I mean, the old Brawn is obviously a good thing, but this also leads a lot of armies containing him in just a long range unit. And I think by putting by putting this down, you won't see him every time in crossbows, every time in Lightbringer, every time. And so I really like this about the change. And it fuels what we see with more attachments, not more, but more diverse, more flexible attachment use. So I like that in general. From a bird's eye perspective, I like both changes for the game in itself.
Yeah.
All right. So the next theme of abilities that got changed are the ones that, and maybe Dennis, you can take the superior numbers one first. These are changes that used to be like more ranks or less ranks, and now got to same or more ranks. So is in general, these changes make the ability more usable early game.
You already said most of it, and again, this is just more flexible. It's just a small change to the wording, which gives it a little more power. It's not much, but we will have those situations where now you're at the same rank and you get the benefit out of it, and before you wouldn't. So it's a minimal buff, I would say.
But it also got the other part. It's not only the part with the ranks, but now it says you cannot expend weakened tokens.
Yeah, superior numbers got to change with the weakened tokens also. Yeah.
So suddenly, I think it's from being like rather meh, now an interesting, at least, ability.
Especially for Starks, because it's not only in the Loyalist Captain, it's also in what's his name, Karstark Commander. It's also in there.
Rickard.
Rickard Karstark.
Yeah.
Also true
Captain's influence.
Yeah, and true conviction, for example, really is also widely spread across Baratheons. That really, and also once in Lannisters, this really fuels your attack power, right? Which is also good. And Domineering Pride also goes from same or fewer remaining ranks. This unit automatically passes all panic tests, which was also like double down on what Daniel just said, was meh before, because like in the end somewhere, then you can use it. Now this unit comes to you saying, I will pass, right? Early game, I will pass all panic tests as long as we are same.
Yeah, for solos, that's especially problematic. If you are a dragon, for example.
Yeah.
Bad news.
Bad news.
But bad news for dragons are probably good news for the game balance. So
yeah.
Boo.
Yeah. All right. So that was the next theme. One more thing is some tweaks to stuff that also was, well, not bad, but
below the curve, I think.
Below the curve, but let me take ambush and you take the other two. So ambush was one thing that I played so often in my life and tried to make it work so often in my life with Vanguard, because I love playing Vanguard. I love playing all cav. I tried to make, I mean, Vanguard is obviously a good unit, but they all only come with ambush and outflank. But now when they charge you in the flank or rear, you do the rainbow. And this is for them with their attack, like 7 dice hitting on 3s, maybe anything like one vow on it or anything. That vulnerable token does a lot for this unit. So I love the ambush.
So weird, right? Because like ambush,
why panicked and weakened? Yeah.
An ambush, like, yeah, it does damage. And
yes.
why no token?
Yeah.
So and now it feels thematic, and also for Stark Outright is like so cool.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Great change.
So Daniel, tell me about Knightly Vow, because everyone wants to use Brienne, but no one does. So will we use Brienne now?
I mean,
exactly.
Here, while I agree with a lot of stuff, I think this is, again, it's like why your opponent does not control. So it's online more often, right? The swords effect, +1 to hit. Not bad. But I feel this might not be enough. But it's a good change. It's definitely the right direction. We will see how it goes. It just, in comparison to just having, having your vulnerable token, that's something you cannot argue about. And here it's very minor, I think.
Yeah.
Protection of the crown, though, Dennis.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yes.
I see those queensmen.
Yes. It's
with protection of the crown.
Can you talk me through the change? I can't read it here on my end.
Protection
because I can't see the card.
You cannot spend vulnerable tokens now.
Yeah, it's like the same.
Yes.
The same with the offensive one, right?
Yeah.
You had rerolls in the past already on a certain condition, and now you cannot expend vulnerable tokens. And anyone who knows Donald,
yes.
might have an idea how strong this might be.
Yeah, what this does. Yeah. Yeah, so good changes, and we already we spoiled something that is some stuff that we will cover in the faction videos for sure in more detail. But and all the guys are already. I know everyone is. This weekend will be list building time, and I know what we are coming up with next week. We will definitely see something. All right. So we also saw some unit changes. We won't cover them in like each and every detail, but we saw that certain units that really needed a buff, that needed something to work better or more balanced out. Just as an example, Blackguard got a 5 movement. They reduced point cost for the pit fighters. They gave the Stark Sworn Swords go down fighting. So these are just stuff that all these units were in need of something, and they got it. And I will now stop and give the mammoth thing to Daniel. But this is also good to see that they covered the most crucial ones. That probably not all the ones. I'm thinking about bruisers, conscripts, but it's a good start.
Yeah, that and I don't want to talk. I'm obviously excited about the Mammoth, and I will talk hopefully in length about it in the faction video.
will.
You know, prepare for it. But the point is, if you look at these units, I think many of us, I guess, would agree that these were in need of changes and tweaks. So this is good, and this is a good sign that they monitor which units seem to underperform and they get something. Maybe it might not be enough, but then they will get some more next time or whatever. But they all got something, and sometimes very substantial, right? Up to a points decrease, 1 point.
Yeah.
And
Pit fighters.
we could obviously pit fighters, yeah, and we could obviously ask ourselves what would be other candidates. You know, Hamas Vanguard. Looking at you, Dennis, do you have any other idea on your wish lists, maybe?
Well, yeah, we talked about it before, and I think Hamas Vanguard was the one where all of us were like, "Oh yes, that would have needed something," and we really hope that it gets some treatment there, because it's just not played the way it is when it released. So I think that's one that the devs need to look at. Maybe that's an oversight. I don't know. Other than that, for Targs, I think all the Targ units have a certain role, a spot. The pit fighters really were not used, and I'm not sure if the point reduction is going to make them see that much more. But I think it's a good change, and now at least the unit feels like a 5-point unit to fill a role and do a lot of damage. For Targs, though, I would have wished for Solo Jorah to get one more wound. That would have been
not being killed straight away.
Unit change, but from a panic test if you're unlucky. But but I think other than that, we didn't come up with much, right? That we said that was absolutely not used. I think
no Vanguard, Bruisers, Conscript. There are definitely some, but I think this is a really good start, and I think we will we will cover this in detail in each faction video.
Otherwise, let us know in the comments.
Exactly. Put it down. So we also got 4 NCU changes. Again, not covering them in detail, but crucial stuff. And I have one complaint, but all the other ones are, again, good stuff. Like Joran, 1 point down, great, right? I mean, at least we can try him now, especially with these more points for attachments. Illyrio, more flexibility. Rob Stark now has always an influence, makes you faster, which is great for Starks, always has a use. That's great. And the only complaint I have is I do not know the Balon point, like now that he's 6 points, it probably won't change anything from my point of view. Obviously, he is considered too strong by the developers, but I do not know if the 6 points really work, because at the same time you give a faction which has quite incredible attachments 4 additional points to get these attachments. So you will just
save on it.
You will just use Balon again, right? So that's the only complaint. That was when I read through it, that was the only complaint where I thought through the patch notes where I was like, but probably not enough to change anything in that Balon meta bubble, right?
And we later on have an example, because if you really look at the meta list and what this all this does, from my part, and I'm pretty sure the other players like Leon, Mikael, and so on will agree, Balon is still top notch.
Yes.
And no need to to throw him out.
Yeah. All right. That's on the NCUs. So one big thing. You cannot use neutral commanders anymore if you play another faction. So you can only use you must only or can only use neutral commanders when you play neutral faction. Because you cannot trust an entire army to a sellsword, obviously. This will highly, while I really feel good about their intention, the intention is really good. So like from a, again, bird's eye perspective on the game, it's really good to say these 5 commanders do not work across 10 factions, we cannot balance this out. So this in general is good. But what do you think, Daniel?
I think you have to be very careful with changes like this because you are pretty much taking toys away from people, right?
Yeah.
Because they cannot play this anymore. But I think the change in general goes into the right direction because now you free up space for balancing neutral commanders better because you don't have to think about all the interactions,
Yeah.
even though we don't see any substantial changes to neutral commanders now. So I would really hope if they follow it up during the next patch with substantial changes to neutral commanders, I think then it probably was a good idea to give the neutral faction and more, I don't know, standalone unique identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but
yeah. You go.
As you said, it takes away toys of people and makes it a little less flexible. And some people would, just for fun, take a neutral commander just to change stuff up without having to play neutrals. Now, if you want to do that, you have to play that faction. On the other hand, a lot of people have a lot of neutral units. So, building a neutral army is possible for a lot of people who have been playing for a while. But again, it also impacts certain factions quite a lot.
Yes.
So we've had too many factions coming out, Boltons and now the Brotherhood without banners, and both of those have very limited choice of commanders, obviously. So they will be impacted the hardest by this.
Yeah,
I think they just have to release more stuff for the mini factions then.
Yeah,
right?
I feel so too.
Yes.
Okay.
Mini factions plus.
Something. So to summarize it, in general, good thing for the game in general, but it takes away toys, and hopefully we see more ideas around the mini factions to compensate for that. So now let's go to these two lists you guys built. So the first one will show what it can do to a certain meta list, now with 4 more attachment points. Daniel, you go.
Can or can't do, because
can't. Yeah, exactly.
This is a very successful, often played, battle-proven 8 activation Victorian list. This won the German nationals, and it's widely used by very successful players. And you still see Balon, and guess what? You can now just stick attachments in your Stony Shore pillagers. Not that they need one, and in your bowmen. With a drowned prophet now, not as easy to kill and throw over. So the thing is here, what we wanted to say, on one end of the spectrum of effects, it might be that your list stays completely the same basically and just get some more additional attachments here and there. This is one end of the spectrum, probably the most uninteresting, and we don't hope to see, but this might be. And this list is still strong, and I think the other lists with their free attachment points don't get that much stronger, that this one is not competitive anymore, by no means.
Exactly, and it won't work any differently. It will just work exactly the same, right? So, okay. So on the other hand, and I will give it to Dennis to show another example what it can do.
Yeah, and here we built a Targaryen list, a full calf list with Drogo. And this is different now. It has only 2 NCUs, as you see here, and we'll get to that in a minute. And of course, it's full of screamers. So you have those 3 screamer units, and then veterans because you have the points left over, and of course the outriders there. So you have 5 cav units here, and every single one has an attachment. If you want to, you can make each and every of those units non-weakenable because you can put all the Blood Rider attachments in them. For this list, Daniel didn't put a Blood Rider attachment in the Outriders, in the ranged unit, because we figured that Jorah Mormont is a better fit with tactical reposition to get them into a position there. But you could do that. So it's a bit fun to do probably, or not fun for your opponent if they can't weaken anything. But this is the other spectrum, right? This is a list that is now different. Before you would have used 4 CAF units and 3 NCUs, and you wouldn't have been able to put any attachments in there depending on what NCUs you picked. So if you picked Barristan, for example, with 5 points, it would have already been difficult to fit any more attachments in them. And now each and every of these 5 combat units now, so one more CAF unit, and all of them have an attachment. And if you really want to push it, none of them could be weakened. So this is big.
And isn't
But it's
this
also
beautiful? Like the Horde.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's just
and they're all together, you know.
And Dennis
And
painted
they-
all of them.
Yes, and you can see
Almost.
very
true.
nice synergies in those if you go through it. And obviously, guys, the point costs are not accurate, right? Because this
Yeah.
is the not updated version of stats yet. How should it? And this could be the other side of the spectrum, that the free attachment points really change the way lists are built, even in a way that in some cases I'm not sitting here or standing here and say now we will see only 2 NCU lists will be the new meta or whatever, but there might be cases where you think I have 2 points left that I would otherwise waste, or 1 or whatever.
Mm.
Maybe I go for the full presence on the board here, and it incentivizes at least more variety even in this this regard.
Yeah, and I think a list like this can put a lot of pressure on the battlefield from the start of the game, right? You have those 5 really mobile, hard-hitting CAF units that cannot be weakened. And maybe this is a good trade-off for only having 2 NCUs, because with the pressure you put on, you don't need the 3rd NCU maybe, because you can do a lot of stuff at the beginning of the game, and might be, it's a hypothesis that you can put out that maybe we will see more 2 NCU lists, because those combat units on the battlefield will be tougher, stronger, more elite with these attachments that you can put in.
No, might be. So great, guys. I'm afraid now. Why didn't you choose a Night's Watch list, by the way? But yeah. We will do that later. All right, we will do that.
Pros don't have attachments,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Vargo doesn't work anymore with Stone Thrower. That's good too. So
Thing of the past.
no, that's really good. That's really good. I honestly feel that's good. All right, so let's take it away now. Conclusion, outlook. So we already talked about, is there 8 activation meta with 2 NCUs? That might happen. But the question I have for both of you is, do you also, or could you think we see, like, since season 3, 4, 5, 6, we've seen like an upward spiral of things just getting stronger? Is that the case? Or what do you think, Daniel?
I think spiral is a little bit, as a metaphor, is a little bit too strong. But you could argue that obviously, if you look at this patch and the patches in the past, there are more buffs than nerfs. And especially now for attachments, it's very obvious, but also like the underperforming units are tweaked so that they work better. That probably if you match an S6, the units from SO6 against SO4 or something, they might be stronger. But it's in a very limited, minimal, and precise way.
Mm-hmm.
And there are nerfs, like we saw nerfs to Landscape, for example, right? It's not that we are only going into the one direction.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, which is very important, it's not power creep by any means, because if you look at new released units, they are often rather balanced under the curves, pit fighters, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than too strong and go all out there and buy it or something. That's not the case. So I think I can see where you're coming from there, but for me it wouldn't be too worrying. There might be a point in the future where you would need to like reset or tone down in general the limit, but we are definitely not there yet, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, I can agree. Dennis, what would you like to see in the future for season 7?
Season 7 or a mid-season
or
patch.
mid-season patch. Yeah,
maybe it's not. Yeah, last time it was got a new season number, but maybe this time it doesn't. So yeah, we think that this is a bold move to give those 4-point attachment. It shakes everything, shakes everything up, list building. But there's probably a room for stuff to happen in the mid-season update and some more tweaks that could happen. One thing that we talked about was, for example, adaptive. That is still the same, and we talked about not being able to fit those 4 points into every army or every list that you want to build, and so on. So we were thinking about that maybe there's some more attachment restrictions limited. We talked about having 2 attachments maybe in a unit for certain ones. I was thinking about something like we have now have more 1-point attachments. 2-point attachment went to 1. Maybe in order to make a distinction between some of the stronger 1-point attachments, some of the less strong, there could be a new category for generic 1-point attachments. So things that are not named, for example. Chris talked about something like faction specific, give every faction one generic update that has that gives it one maybe fluffy thematic ability or something. So I could imagine something like that as a broader stuff, and other than that, maybe a few more combinations with attachments would be interesting if they loosen up the limitations a little bit, or check how does it work? Do people build lists where those 4 points are just not used up, and can they tweak that somehow? Yeah,
about these limitations, I think you have to take these really carefully, cautiously do them, because already now we have some attachments with like 3 abilities on the card, and you just gain that to your unit. And if you loosen if you loosen up the restrictions also, and you say, I have this named attachment, and right next to it I put this generic attachment or whatever, or this 1-point unnamed attachment, you like stack and stack and stack abilities.
I have now to remember 8 abilities on my unit.
Yeah. So your main goal in the beginning will be, I will just try to not forget my abilities, not right to forget my tactics cards, triggers and stuff. Yeah. So that's it, I would say, for this conclusion, this outlook. If you guys have any idea of what you want to see in mid-season patch update, and I have to go over here once more. Sorry for that. If you want to, like, everything you want to see in upcoming patches, mid-season patch or season 7, what do you would like to see, what we should cover, or any ideas we should do in the faction videos, drop your comment down below. You have the chance to win a promo Vargo Holt miniature. Once more, we will select in one of our next videos. We will select one random comment from the comments field to get you your Vargo to your doorstep. So just drop it down below, and I think we can end this. And we're so much looking for all your comments, all your feedback, and the upcoming faction videos. And until we do this, roll those crits, guys.
Come for the hits and stay for the crits.